but that the Creator gives Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet. I give him Kuna, the priesthood forever. But more important than that, it says he gets the gift of Shalom, the gift of peace. What is the gift of peace? What's the spiritual secret of the gift of peace? It says in the Torah, Et Briti Shalom. The Creator says, I've given Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, Pinchas, who became Elijah, the covenant of peace. This foreigner writes the following words, which we have to understand, but hold within them the secret of peace and the secret of immortality. Et Briti Shalom mimalach hamavet. Creator gave him the gift of peace and freedom from the angel of death. Kinyan oseh shalom miromav, and this is what it means. Peace. Peace means a person who is completely detached from the angel of death in all areas. When it says shalom, peace means immortality, separation from the angel of death. Practically, how did he do it? The Sforno says, Omnam ha'hefsed lo yikre. Why is there loss? Either in this world while we're here, why do we lose things? Why does death happen? What allows the entry of the force of death? Ela besibat hitnagdut ha'ofchin. It says when there is a battle between opposing forces within the individual, that's what allows death in, that's what allows end to come in, that's what allows loss to come in. Again, what is the cause of death? Hu al yedei hitnagdut ha'ofchim arba yesodot sheba'adam einam beshalom yachdav b'mezeg hashaveh. In the book of formation, the Sefer Yetzirah, Abraham tells us there's 4 yesodot. There's 4 foundational elements that make up everything. They make up the universe and that make up the individual. Esh, Ruach, Mayim, Ve'afar. Esh is fire, Mayim is water, Ruach is air or spirit, and Afar is earth. These 4 elements make up the individual, make up the person. Now these 4 elements are not just physical elements, more importantly they have a spiritual DNA. So Esh, fire, the element of fire, represents excitement, represents the force of that a person uses to awaken either great desire or great movement. Esh, fire, is great movement. Again, as we know, that can be used for positive, that can be used for negative. Mayim, water, represents flowing, represents sharing, which again can be used for the positive, can be used for the negative. Ruach, air or spirit, represents the ability to both be detached from the physical world, to leave things quickly, to not be delving deeply into things, and of course that can be used for the positive, for the negative. A person delves into his problems, that's negative. The person delves into spiritual understanding, that's positive. Afar, earth, represents doing things slowly, or being lazy. And again, laziness can be positive or negative. Laziness for spiritual work obviously is negative. Laziness when it comes to fulfilling our selfish desire to receive for the self alone is positive. We are made up of these 4 elements. Esh, Ruach, Mayim, V'afar, fire, water, wind, and earth. Each one of them has positive, each one of them has negative. The perfected person has all 4 of them in exact equilibrium. Doesn't use fire for negative, uses fire and excitement for positive. Doesn't use sharing or giving for negative, only uses it for positive. Exactly in balance. Doesn't use the spirit, doesn't use the air to leave things on which one should dwell on, and uses it to leave things where one should not dwell. Afar uses laziness or being brought down for positive and not for negative. Those are the 4 elements that make up the individual. Sibat hamavet, what causes death? What causes death? As we know, as Rav Asher makes clear, death is not a moment, it is an accumulation of moments. So what type of accumulation of moments creates death? על ידי התנגדות ההופכים 4 יסודות שבאדם אינם בשלום יחדיו ומזג השווה. When the 4 elements within the individual are not balanced, a person maybe gets too excited about everything, then he ruins the equilibrium of his body and soul. A person who's lazy in all things, he ruins the equilibrium of the body. Every decision and action that is not balanced within the 4 elements, that brings one of the 4 elements off its balance, is one more step towards death. When it says about Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, that the Creator gave him the gift of peace, what does it mean? The Creator gave him, he earned it, but he received the ability to always maintain balance of all the 4 elements within him. And therefore, death never touched him. We all have moments, again, whether it's with the element of fire, whether it's the element of earth, where we feel right now either something's happening or we're making a decision that is not balanced within either one of the four elements. Now, so most of us realize it's not right. Let's say you have a spoiled child to just give him, right? So that's using the element of water, not balance, right? So you just give and give and give. But you understand, it's not just that you're doing something that you shouldn't do. You're doing something that's not good for your child. You're actually ruining, chas v'shalom, your own equilibrium. And that action actually brings you one step closer to death. We all know that you shouldn't use excitement to hurt somebody else. You shouldn't use excitement to do something very selfish, only for yourself alone. And so, but it's not just that it's not the good thing to do. It's that when you break the equilibrium, or when you live out of equilibrium in the element of fire, which is where excitement and movement comes from, then chas v'shalom, each one of those actions, each one of those decisions turns the four elements out of balance. And when the four elements are out of balance, that's one more step towards chas v'shalom death. When a person's lazy, so everybody knows it's not good to be lazy. But if you realize that, if you looked at the earth meter of your being, you want to be in the middle. If you're too lazy, it's not just that you're a lazy person, it's not good, you want to change that, but that the meter staying there actually is one step closer to death, because you're not leaving balance within your four elements. Of course, on the other side, if you're not using laziness to take down, let's say, anger, take down actions of the desire to receive for the self alone, also again, it's not balanced. So for every element, and this is beautiful when you understand this on a deep level, there's three positions. There's the center, which is exactly where you want to be, and there's the extreme. So in the case of fire, the center is where you use anger when it's right, and you use excitement when it's right, and you don't use it when it's wrong. That's the perfect balance. When a person gets angry easily, so his fire element is off balance to the right. When a person never gets angry, even when he should, then the fire element is all the way to the end. So for each element, there's one position you want to be in, which is the central position, and there's the extremes, the right or the left, where the person is not using the element properly. And again, most important, it's not just that these are things you don't want to do because they're not right, they're not helping you, they're not growing. It's that every action of lack of equilibrium of any of the four elements is one action that is closer to death. Because death, and this is again such a fundamental and important understanding, death is an accumulation of actions that were done through the equilibrium of the four elements that make up both a physical and spiritual being. Thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them. Eventually, the entire four elements of the individual, physical and spiritual, are off balance, and that is what death is. Peace, now we understand the secret of peace. And that's why it says, Rav Ashlag speaks about this at length, there is no vessel that can take in any blessing except peace. What does peace mean? Peace is when the individual is able to balance each one of his four elements. When you live in peace, you are a vessel for blessings. When you live in peace, when your four elements are in equilibrium, you are able to at least be going towards immortality, able to go towards the removal of the force of death from the individual. Very important. And again, I want to read this again because this is so important. And again, as I said, it gives you a new perspective about how we need to live our lives. Again, so today somebody did something that got you really angry. Right? We all know it's not good to be angry, but it's more scary than that. If I allow my anger, which comes from the element of fire, to go to the extreme, chas v'shalom, that action is bringing me towards death. So it's not whether it's good or right or wrong to be angry. It's I can't allow, I don't want to allow my fire element, one of my four elements, to be off balance, but chas v'shalom, those are actions that leads to death. I don't want to share when I shouldn't share because that will put my water element out of equilibrium, and the chas v'shalom is an action towards death. I don't want to be lazy when I shouldn't be because that brings my earth element off balance. So it's not just that these aren't positive, you shouldn't do this, you should change. Understand that death comes from an accumulation of those actions when either any one of the four elements is used in the extreme degree, not balanced. כי סיבת המוות הוא על ידי התנגדות ההופכים. ארבע יסודות שבאדם אינם בשלום יחדיו. When the four elements that make up the individual are not balanced, those are actions of death. And this is what it says about Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, Briti hayta ito hachayim v'hashalom. The Creator says He has received the covenant or the strength for life and peace. Now understand, because those are dependent on each other. There is no life without peace between the four elements. And when you have peace with the four elements, you have life. If there's one verse, and I often think in this way, if there's one verse you want to have in your mind this entire week in this Shabbat, you want to merit the gift of Chayim v'Hashalom, life and peace. Peace, we understand now the secret means that when the elements within the individual, or he or she fights, again, to be clear, all of us, now this, you want to take this time to really assess this, all of us are living imbalanced. Some of us are more imbalanced when it comes to fire, some of us are more imbalanced when it comes to earth, some of us are more imbalanced when it comes to water, some of us are more imbalanced when it comes to air. Each one of us should assess and realize that if we want, if we want to merit this Shabbat to receive the gift of life, the gift of life only comes with the gift of peace. When you are able to fight for the balance of the four elements within you, life and peace. When it says that Eliyahu Nabi, Elijah the prophet, merited to live forever, it's because he received the gift of peace, equilibrium within his four elements. It says in the Talmud and Brachot, it says each one of the angels, it says he flies in different ways. It says, for instance, Michael Ba'achad, the angel Michael flies with one. It would seem like he doesn't have to stop. He's from one place to the other. Gabriel B'shtayim, Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, has to stop twice, it seems. Eliyahu Ba'arba, it says that Eliyahu, Elijah the prophet, flies with four. Umalach HaMavet B'shmur, and the angel of death flies with 8. So when you literally read this, that portion of the Talmud, it sounds like, again, it's just telling us how they fly, or how they get from one place to the other. Elijah the prophet stopped 4 times, the angel of death stops 8 times. Now we understand this, and it's a beautiful, beautiful understanding. We just learned there's 4 elements. What's the secret of Eliyahu Nabi, of Elijah the prophet? All 4 elements were in their perfect middle ground. When it says the angel of death flies in 8, as we said earlier, if each one of the 4 elements has a perfect position, a central position, not too angry, not too using anger when necessary, excitement when it's necessary, that's the element of fire. The element of water, sharing when it's right, not sharing when it's wrong, the perfect position. The element of air, getting out of, not dwelling on things when it's right, dwelling on things when you should, that's the perfect position of the element of air. The element of earth, being lazy for negative things, and fighting laziness for positive things. That's the perfect position, each one of the 4. And Eliyahu Nabi, Elijah the prophet, who merited life and peace. Life is because each one of those 4 were in perfect position. Now, if there are 4 elements, and each one of the 4 has a perfect position, each one of the 4 has the wrong position. So if the element of fire has the perfect middle position, where you don't want to be is either on the right or the left, any one of the extremes. Too excitable, too angry all the time, never angry for the right things. You never want to be in either of those 2 positions. So each one of the 4 elements has the perfect position. That's 4. That's the secret of the Eliyahu Navi. Each one of the 4 elements has the negative positions, the extreme right or the extreme left. So the angel of death, what's his power? Whenever you are either in extreme right or left of any of the 4 elements, 2 times 4 is 8. The extreme elements of each one of the 4 is 8. So when it says Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, is 4, he's the secret of 4. He's the secret of the perfect position of each one of the 4 elements. Allah HaMavet, the angel of death, what's his power? When you are living in either one of the extreme positions, either right or left of center, for each one of the 4 elements, 8. And that's the secret. When it says in the Talmud, Eliyahu Navi Be'arba, Elijah the prophet, his secret, and the secret of life and peace, is when the 4 elements are being lived in their perfect position. The angel of death, his power is when you're living in the extremes. And therefore, therefore the angel of death, his secret is the secret of 8. Sibat Hamita, Hema Shmona Arachim Hakitzim. The force of death is when actions of the individual are done on either the extreme of the 4 elements. V'zeu malach hamavet b'shmona, and that's what it means when it says the angel of death, his force comes from 8. Sheshmona arachim hakitzim hema sibot hamita. Briti hayta ito hachayim ve'ashalom. The gift of life comes from the gift of peace. To start fighting for a balanced one of each one of our 4 elements.